to Happy Wife, Happy Life.
We're your hosts. I'm Kendahl, Landreth.
I'm Jordan Myrick.
And we are two incredibly unqualified,
but deeply in love comedians who are here to help you with all things relationships. And on today's episode, we're talking fighting. Kendahl.
Jordan.
We're back, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but we're in a new studio.
We're in a new studio. We're so excited. I feel so professional. We've got our logo behind us. If you're just listening, just try to picture a really incredible logo.
Yeah, like nothing you've ever seen before.
We've also had them project the lesbian flag colors onto the wall.
Yeah, they had it set like this when we came in. I don't know if that was purposeful or not, but it did feel very welcoming and is ultimately why we chose the spot.
How was your week?
My week was good. I spent it all with you.
Yes, I'm really just asking you that so you'll ask me how my week was so I can tell.
Yes, Kendahl, Kendahl, how was your horseback riding lesson?
It was incredible. I had a horseback riding lesson on Friday. What was that, a week ago now?
That was 4 days ago.
4 days ago. It was one of the best moments of my life. It is really cool as an adult to be like, I found a new passion. I got on that horse. Her name was Montana. She was grumpy. She was old. She did not want to be there, but she was so smart. And they had me by the end of my 30-minute lesson. I was trotting with Montana. And I came home and I was happier than I've ever been.
She really found great joy in it. Of course, America's most expensive hobby, equestrian anything. And
it felt expensive. I will say, you pull in, you're like, this is an expensive hobby. Every person there with their child, you were like, that person owns JetBlue or something.
Sure.
Felt very expensive. It was one of those things where they were like, show up 15 minutes early so you can sign paperwork. I arrived 15 minutes early. Everyone is looking at me like, why are you here so early?
This is my biggest pet peeve. Do not ask me to come to something early, because if you're asking me to show up 15 minutes early, I'll probably show up 20 minutes early.
Exactly. And I did. Because I was expecting, for some reason, I'm always expecting at the 15-minute early mark, someone being like, where are you? You don't even get a lesson. We're revoking it. Like, I'm expecting someone to be really aggressive and no one's ever there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hate that. I'm like, either... You know, ultimately feels like gaslighting. I'm like, don't tell me to be there 15 minutes early, and then when I get there 15 minutes early, be like,
well,
hey.
And I'll tell you, being early for a horseback riding lesson is maybe the most embarrassing thing you can do.
Sure.
Because it's nerve-wracking. I don't know the protocol. I don't know what you're supposed to do. I was carrying 800 things. I brought a water bottle, which once I was next to the horse, I was like, why would I have brought a water bottle? What are you going to bring the water bottle on the horse? Or am I going to have the coach be like, oh, hand me my water bottle? It was just embarrassing.
That does not feel that crazy.
It's a 30-minute lesson. It felt crazy.
You can't hold a water bottle on a horse?
No, Jordan. Oh, my God. No, you can't hold a water bottle on a horse. You have way too much going on. You're holding the reins. You cannot hold a water bottle. But I arrived and I was standing in the office and people kept coming in and I just kept saying sorry to them as they would walk through the door.
Well, Kendahl apologized to everybody. I can't tell you how often a small child runs into Kendahl, like at the grocery store or whatever. She looks at the child and she goes, I'm sorry. And I'm like, that's a child. Stop apologizing to them. I know.
Care. It's an instinct. And so I kept apologizing to people. Finally, at the exact time my lesson started, someone was like, hi, are you here for a horseback riding lesson? Then they were like, well, you can go wait next to the stables. So I'm in a helmet. I have my rider's boots on, which I got to get my own. They're pretty cute, I will say. And I just stood there by myself and it was deeply embarrassing. But I'm now addicted. I've signed up for 2 more lessons and I think it might be a big part of my life.
I'm really happy for you.
And you're really scared because you're so scared I'm going to want to buy a horse.
I'm not scared you're going to want to buy a horse. You do want to buy a horse, but we're not going to buy a horse. We live in an apartment in the valley, so it's not an option.
There's a stable very close to our house.
And you don't need to own a horse. Like, why? To me, that feels like people who own private jets. I'm like, you're trying to prove something to someone.
No.
Like, horses are just...
You can't have a relationship with a private jet unless you're that one guy who dated his car. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, for My Strange Addiction?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Unless you're him, you cannot have a relationship with a private jet. You can have a bonded relationship to a horse.
Yeah, but you could have a bonded relationship to a horse that you don't own.
But then I'm not its main, I'm its side bitch. And I'm not interested in being a horse's side bitch.
Okay.
But anyways, I'm addicted to horseback riding. It's everything to me.
Yeah.
And this kind of is a great segue because when I do eventually force you to buy me a horse,
we're going to fight about it.
And this week we're talking about
what we fight about.
What we really fight about.
We actually had a conversation this morning where we made a list of things we fight about to bring to the podcast.
So we had a great morning. We
had
didn't
a
fight at all.
great
It didn't bring up anything.
No.
Anything sensitive at all.
Smooth sailing, no arguing. It was awesome.
I will say we've gotten a lot better at fighting, I would say.
I think we've mastered fighting.
Well, I don't know if I would go that far, but I do think we've made an immense progress.
Yeah.
Fighting is a very hard skill. I was saying this to you the other day, is that fighting is something you grow up and you don't really know what is good or bad. Like most things, even if your family is bad at something, I'm trying to think of an example that's not specific to my family, but if your family's on drugs, for example, you're not supposed to be on drugs. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Fighting, if your family's bad at fighting, they're never telling you we're really bad at fighting. So you just assume that's how you argue.
Oh, sure. I see.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I was very confused, but then I caught up. I caught up.
You really learn by watching how to fight via your family. And I think it is something that it takes a lot to learn what's the proper and healthy way to fight.
Well, also, your family is fighting incorrectly if you're over the age of 20 because your parents have not been to therapy. Maybe these younger generations that are children now will have therapized parents, but none of us do. My family, silent treatment.
Oh, man.
Silent treatment, and I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Oh, man.
You've lost our trust.
No.
That was a big one in our house. You've lost our trust. My dad will bring up things now. I'm 32 years old. My dad will bring up things now that I did when I was 12.
Yeah.
Still,
how dare you?
To this day. One of them
you.
is the time that I said a curse word in a sketch video that we were filming in a car.
What was it?
What?
What was the curse word?
I'm not even going to say it because I'm too scared of my dad. It was GD. That's all I'll say.
GD.
Everyone here knows what word it was?
It was HE double hockey.
It was
stick,
GD, and my dad,
heard of it.
which is also weird because my parents aren't religious, but my dad was like, that's disrespectful to, my dad hates disrespect to groups of people at large. So my dad was like, that's disrespectful to people who believe in God.
Well, I remember, I have a distinct memory as a kid. I've told you this. When I was in school and I said, I was a really good kid. I feel like I would never have cursed in front of a teacher if I'd known it was a curse word. I said, this sucks about something. And I was joking. I wasn't even in a bad mood. I was just like, this sucks. And my teacher, he was like, don't you ever say that again. And it's ingrained in my brain because I was so traumatized by him being mad at me. And looking back, I'm like, did he think I was saying this sucks dick?
Yeah, or this sucks ass.
Crazy.
Right?
Why would I be saying that?
But it's an abbreviation.
He thought I walked up to my teacher in third grade and went, this sucks ass.
No, but I think he's like, this sucks is short for this sucks dick.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well,
I don't know.
I never said it again.
You had like a million older siblings though, so I feel like
did.
you were doing and saying a lot of things you shouldn't have done.
Well, it was hard to know what's allowed because my siblings weren't just a couple years older, they were way older. They were way older than me. So for example, I remember one time I went to a Cobra Starship concert with my older sister. I bought merch there like everyone else. I wore it to second grade the next day and it had like fuck your bitch written on the top in really small letters and I got in trouble for that.
Yeah.
I was like, I had no idea that was inappropriate, but it was so normalized in my family because I had older siblings.
That's why you can't have age gaps that big between your kids.
You cannot.
Once you
too
stop
much explaining.
Stop.
Right.
Don't, wear a condom.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Yeah, but you are a beautiful accident and I love you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's look at the things that we argue about. Oh, this is the first one. Eating leftovers is a big point of contention in our house.
Yeah.
I will say confidently, Kendall's wrong and I'm right.
Okay.
And the argument is always, we have leftovers or we have things we need to eat. And Kendall's like, I'm not in the mood.
Yeah.
I'm not in the mood.
Right.
But also a lot of times we have leftovers because we've gone out to eat and Kendall's been like, well, let's order a bunch and then we'll take the rest home. Or
I love to say that. I say, let's get 12 entrees.
Yeah. And we'll just take it home.
And
we'll
we'll
eat
meal
it
prep it.
later. We'll just eat it later. We'll take it home. Yeah. And then once we do, the next day Kendall's like, I'm not in the mood.
Well, this is, before we met, this was how I bought groceries. I go to the store, I buy $200 worth of produce. I put it in my fridge. I feel proud of myself. I order in for the rest of the week, and then I throw that produce away.
Mm-hmm. And you were in $30,000 worth of credit card debt.
Yes.
That's not an exaggeration.
That is how I did it. And I do have I struggle a little with germophobia.
Sure.
And I get really freaked by eating leftovers. I get freaked out that there's some... It grosses me out.
Don't make this about your mental illness.
No,
because
you can't.
Then I'm
you
the
can't
villain.
Make a comment on it because it's a mental.
Yes, I know. And then I
have.
become the villain. But this is my thing. Then we have to stop getting 400 entrees at a restaurant.
But that's okay. That's understandable. But I also think even when people make... I don't like when we've made something at home and everyone's kind of breathed around it.
But I don't do that anymore because you're so sensitive to it.
I know.
I just think that you have to use what you have, and I really try to accommodate. I make sure that when we have people over to eat, I serve everyone. No one goes near the food but me.
Right.
I try to put things away the second they're finished. I freeze things instead of just putting them in the fridge because you're like, but I still think it's not about that.
Well, I think refrigerators also gross me out. Like, you'll put something in. We were just saying this morning. Jordan will get a drink from a restaurant, or we'll go get coffee. Jordan will get a little tea. You will put it in the fridge and sip on it over the course of a week. Mm-hmm. That's insane. I've never not drank
I'm meal
a
prepping.
drink. That is literally your meal prepping. I drink a drink 2 seconds. It doesn't matter what it is. Soda, water, margarita, 2 seconds is like the longest I've ever gone drinking a singular drink. But you set it in the fridge and you're totally fine going back. To me, I'm picturing all the stuff from the fridge, like the smells getting into it. I remember when I learned that if you put an apple core in the fridge, it soaks up the bad smells. And that traumatized me because I'm like, what else is being soaked into my stuff? If I put a brownie in there, is it soaking up all the grossness?
But that's why you're not putting food just raw dog in the fridge. You're putting it in a container.
Yeah. No, I know.
So back to this. The main issue I have with this is that it's not about any of that. It's that you just don't want to eat it. You're just not in the mood. And you're like, sometimes you'll say to me, you'll be like, we have a nice life now and I shouldn't have to eat something I'm not in the mood to eat.
Right. Well, okay, I know. And I kind of agree with myself there. It's like, why am I doing, I think I am at this place in my life where I'm like, why am I doing something I don't want to do? Like, I am an adult person. Like, why would I push through something just to like push myself? I don't really get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See,
I do think you're too hard on yourself about food stuff. I feel like you will, if we have like 2 blueberries left that you got at a farmer's market, we've had all of them. There's 2 blueberries left. Jordan's like, we gotta do better with the fruit. We've gotta do better. We always gotta do something. We gotta do better with the fruit.
I am infatuated
and
with
I'm
doing
like,
better.
It's so, every person in the world is buying produce and throwing it out. That's pretty much all produce is there to do.
But that's
There's
bad.
like 3
Not
people eating their
doing
produce.
that. No,
nobody's eating their produce. We buy it and we feel guilt over it. And produce is put on this earth for adults to be reminded of their wrongdoings. That's what, to me, berries are for. Because with a pack of blueberries, I'm like, when are you eating that many blueberries? I sprinkle a couple on something.
But that's my thing. Why are you making me then get a big thing of blueberries? Why can't we buy a small thing of blueberries?
Because when you go to the farmer's market, it feels good to pick up a package of blueberries. I'm wrong, and I know that.
All right.
I'm wrong, and I know that.
All right.
I'm wrong. But I think also, I've gotten a bit better about the...
You've gotten so much better.
Gotten a bit better.
You've gotten so much better. But I still think...
You know what's
we gotta be doing better.
Do? I know we didn't write this down, but something we argue about.
This is the one thing we talked about that we weren't going to do any sneak attacks. We talked about it. We made a list.
Well, it has to do with the fridge.
What?
It has to do with the fridge.
What?
Jordan will buy. We'll get a 12-pack of Fresca, for example, a thing that you could buy every week if you want. Anytime you go to the grocery store, we could get a pack of Fresca. Jordan saves them. I think we've talked about this before. You won't drink the Fresca, and then I'll be drinking. I'll have 2, and you'll be like, "That's your second Fresca today, Kendahl. We're gonna run out of Fresca."
Well, because
I'm like,
why
yeah,
have you had?
We'll go to the store.
Why have you had 2 Frescas by 9 o'clock in the morning?
Because
you had
I
no
don't
water.
drink water,
and then all day. I have a headache. I don't feel good. I can't do the things I have to do because I have a headache. I don't feel good. I'm like, you haven't had water in 4 days.
Well, it's really come to light since the last couple weeks I've been reading these zombie apocalypse books. And the amount they drink water, I feel like the common issue is always we need to get to water. And I'm always like, I don't know, they had water 3 days ago. That's about when I would drink water.
That's so crazy.
Every 3 days.
But I will say you are right. And this is something I'm trying to work on, is I have a mentality of you have to save nice things for a special occasion.
Yeah.
And I saw a TikTok, ultimately where I do all my learning. I saw a TikTok of a woman being use the nice things. Yeah. You could be dead tomorrow. So I've been trying to use my nice things more regularly. And it has upgraded the quality of my life.
Well, you looked so cute yesterday. We went to, where did we go? It was so casual. I can't remember. We just went out to a lunch, but easy, not like a fancy lunch. You brought this beaded purse.
I did.
Oh, I thought, how adorable is that? And so I think you're really living that.
I brought a beaded bag. I'm eating my fancy tinned fish just for lunch on a Wednesday. I'm doing better.
I love it.
Next fight, sun protection.
Oh my God. Okay. So I walk every day. I always go on a walk. I love walking outside. I wear sunscreen like a normal person. I do. Anytime Jordan calls me and I'm on my walk, this is the conversation. Hi, how are you? Good, I'm on my walk. Do you have sunscreen on? Yeah. Do you have sunglasses on? Yeah. Do you have a hat on? No. Do you have an umbrella with you? No. And then you're so upset.
No, how the real conversation goes is, do you have sunscreen on? Yes. Is it on your arms and your neck? No. Do you have sunglasses? No. Do you have any water? I forgot. What are you doing? Oh, I had to stop and sit down because I'm too hot. Whatever. It's like,
I know, but the other day I said to you, I was like, genuinely, Jordan, what would you think if I told you, yes, I'm walking with a parasol, I'm walking with a huge coat on, with an umbrella, with sunglasses on, covered in sunscreen head to toe.
I'd be proud of you.
And you said, I'd be really proud of you.
I'd be proud of you.
I was like, that is insane.
Kendahl?
I'm never going to do that. I'm just preparing you now. I'm not going to bring an umbrella out to walk to the gym.
Why?
Because that is the highest. This is what has I been saying all year? What is my most common thing I've said all year?
I simply have no clue what you're talking about.
All year I've been going, perfectionism is the killer of progress.
Oh my God.
It can't just be, let me wear sunscreen. It has to be, bring a huge, like, deck porch umbrella.
I'm going to kill whoever taught Kendahl that phrase. I don't know which person made an Instagram reel of like a picture of a lake with that phrase over it, and Kendahl read it
is the killer
and now won't stop saying it to me. She uses it as a cop-out for literally everything.
It's not a cop-out. It's like with the berries. Why we got through so many of the berries, we stopped buying berries because we can't be perfect with the berries?
No, but see, that's what it is, right? Like, it's a cop-out. There's no push to do better. And this is my thing. If you're like, hey, Jordan, why do you care if Kendahl carries a big umbrella when she walks to the gym, whatever? Kendahl has lupus, as I'm sure literally all of you know. Also, skin cancer runs in my family.
You keep saying that. I'm not related to you.
I know that.
I don't know this argument. Skin cancer runs in my girlfriend's family.
Because I'm very aware of it.
Sure.
So it's at top of mind, first of all. Second of all, you have lupus. So you're supposed to be going above and beyond for skincare. Third of all, Kendahl's always bitching about stuff like shit. I'm going to need Botox soon. I'm going to need Botox soon. I'm going to need this thing soon. I'm like, why don't you just take care of yourself now? How about that? Why don't you just wear...
I wear sunscreen and I wear my hat.
You wear a little bit of sunscreen on the front of your face. Also, to blow up her medical records, Kendahl just went to the eye doctor.
Well, now I did get in trouble here.
I don't know if you've ever seen a photo of Kendahl close up or met her in real life. Kendahl has the pupils of a Pixar character. They're gigantic.
Well, I don't know if we talked about this on here. So I go to a new eye doctor and she literally said, she was like, I don't need to dilate your eyes because you have the biggest pupils I've ever seen. And then she said, for fun, would it be okay if I measured your pupils? She then measured them. She said an average pupil, I guess on the scale they have, is like a 2 or a 3. I'm a 9. My pupils are a size 9. I don't even know. And one of them's bigger than the other, which she said they've always been that way. So she said, I don't have to worry about it. But they're huge. And so she was like, you're intaking more sunlight by far than other people. You really need to be wearing sunglasses.
She's a freak of fucking nature. And what happens? She never wears sunglasses.
But now the last couple of days.
Yeah, you've worn sunglasses literally 2 times.
And where's my award? I don't understand.
I'm just like, wear the sunglasses, put a hat on. Yeah. I can't wear a hat. It makes me sensory. You're an adult.
But the hat, because I'm always walking to the gym, it's so much to carry. Like, I also used to, this is on me. I know this is bad. I used to not carry a water bottle to the gym, and I would usually, it's really bad, buy a water bottle there. I know. Sue me, okay? But by the time I'm holding everything Jordan wants me to be carrying to the gym, I might as well rent a U-Haul. Like, I am holding so much on my walk to the gym. I like to feel free on my walks. Like, I could run if I wanted to. Now I'm holding a...
You've never run, A. B, carry a backpack.
Don't call me out like that. We wouldn't bring up stuff we didn't talk about.
Carry a backpack. Or I'll get you one of those umbrella hats if you want that men wear golfing.
I am not wearing an umbrella hat to the gym.
It's fun. But I'll get you a backpack. And in fact, we own 100 backpacks.
For real.
Wear a backpack. That's so not crazy. Wear a backpack, put some sunscreen in, whatever. You also have to reapply sunscreen at the gym before you walk home. I know you're not doing that.
No, but I understand. I've taken a lot of your advice, and I think you're right. I need to take better care of my skin. And I've been taking way better care of my lupus. I stopped drinking this month.
I know,
don't
you're
drink
doing great.
anymore. And because you're not supposed to on lupus, and I was kind of just throwing caution to the wind. Because, a frozen margarita is really hard for me to turn down.
know.
And yesterday, what did I do? I didn't get a frozen margarita.
Yeah, we went to a Mexican restaurant we love called Salsa and Beer, where it's like where we go when we're feeling decadent. We both get fajitas. Typically, we both get a frozen margarita and a soda. Like, it's kind of where we're going if we're trying to live like modern day kings and queens.
Yeah, when you arrive, they have beans on the table. Like, that's how
They give you
my
beans
house ran.
immediately.
Like, I wish when I got home, there were just beans on the table.
It's unbelievable.
It's incredible. So I love it. I didn't get a frozen margarita, so I don't drink anymore. So I'm doing things for my lupus, but the umbrella just pushed me over the edge. I was like, this is the problem sometimes, is that no matter what I do, there's always something I could have done. You could have brought an umbrella, and then I'm like, if I brought an umbrella, you could have worn a full entire... You could have, I don't know, put on what do they call those suits that people run around in?
Morph suit?
Morph suit. You're going to want me in a morph suit. You're going to want me in a morph suit, and I'm just not, I don't like that. There has to be an end to where I'm not going to ever be perfect. I'm so close, but I am not going to be perfect. And sometimes there's just stuff where I'm like, everyone else is also screwing it up. Like, no one's wearing enough sunscreen.
We're throwing our
matter.
berries away. That does not matter. That can't be our reasoning. Kendahl always wants to, she's like, well, other people are much less healthy than me. Other people take, what does that matter?
It's just a good reminder that, like, some people, I do find solace when I'm having a bad day and I'm like, God, I am just a screw up. And then I'm like, there are some people that are really doing bad.
That's different, though, than like when it comes to your like skin health, when you have an autoimmune disease. I'm sick of this conversation.
All right.
You're pissing me off already.
So it's two you, 0 me, I guess.
Yep.
These. You're right on all of them.
And we're about to have a third one where I'm also right again, which is our morning alarm.
Okay. I do feel bad. I actually think this is something that I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm seeking advice. I know this is supposed to be an advice podcast. I have none. Every night, want to be a different person. So when I'm falling asleep, I go, what if I'm the type of person that wakes up at 6 a.m.? What if I was the person who got up on my alarm, went on a walk, drank tea at the kitchen table? I every night set my alarm so early, and Jordan goes, please don't do that. And I do it. And then at 6 a.m., it goes off. You wake up and can't fall asleep, and I sleep until 9 p.m. Yeah. Till 9 a.m.
Well, it's not even me saying, please don't do that. It's that you're like, you're not good at being reasonable sometimes.
No, I can't just set it 20 minutes earlier. I have to go full swing. I saw a TikTok the other day where a girl said she gets up at 3 a.m. I said, what if this was me? Yeah. Why do I want that? I don't know. But I just am always like, what if I was completely different?
Sure. And so Kendahl will be like, I'm setting the alarm for 6 a.m. And I'll be like, hey, every time you've ever done that, it goes off at 6 a.m. It wakes me up. I'm awake. And then you sleep for maybe 4 more hours.
Right.
Maybe we don't do that. Or maybe we do it and then you actually get up. And last night, she did it. She was like, okay, well, tomorrow I'm setting the alarm for 7. I said, okay, can we do 8? Because I don't think you're going to wake up at 7. And she's like, Jordan, I have a really big work week and I need you to take this seriously.
I did not say.
Yes, you did.
I gave too much attitude. I was really like, what's crazy is I do have a really big work week. This is the problem of it, is that I needed to get up at 7, but I just can't. And then I'm just behind all the time on stuff. So it's hard because I'm like, I should just start setting it later, but I really do need to be getting up earlier.
You don't have to explain it to me. I understand what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, you know what my therapist had me doing for a while that worked? But this leads into another
argument.
Is that she said, well, you need to find a fun drink to put your phone under so that to get up and turn your alarm off, you see the fun drink and then you want to stay up to drink the drink. That's embarrassing that has to be a part of my morning routine. I tried it. It was incredible. It worked. But what's the fun drink I chose? It's a Celsius. Jordan is convinced these are going to end me.
I'm trying to get Kendahl off energy drinks.
You want me with the glass of water and an umbrella hat on, and I'm not doing it.
Sorry, I love you and I want you to live forever.
I know. So wrong? I truly can't stop drinking the Celsiuses. I can't. I can chill. Used to do 7 a week. Now I'm down to like 2. That's pretty good.
Sure.
Because you know why? Perfectionism is the killer of progress.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just like, can't we do something else? They're just so bad for you. And it makes me scared. I don't know. And you're so sick.
I know. And honestly, in general, I feel really bad. I think my sleeping is negatively affecting your life in general. I'm a bad sleeper. I've always been a bad sleeper, and it has not ended in adulthood. And I will wake up to Jordan like clutching their nose because I've punched you in the face while I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
I mean, that's terrible.
Yeah.
I sleepwalk. You walk in on me just in the kitchen.
Yeah, it's really haunting. It's started back up again recently, and you just kind of wake up in the middle of the night to the dog being very upset, and it's because Kendahl's just like wandering around the house asleep, and the dog's like, "Help me!"
Yeah, it's not good. I can't go to, but it's terrible. So I'm working on it. I do feel like if it gets too much worse, I'm gonna have to make myself like sleep in the living room. I feel so bad.
I can't let you sleep in the living room because that's where we keep the car keys. So I'm gonna have to sleep on top of the car keys. It's just like too much. I need to get one of those baby pens, and I need to put you inside of that.
What's that? Oh, a pack and play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could probably climb out of that, but
no,
it's most made for babies.
No, I don't think so.
That's all the things we argue about, isn't it?
Those are the big ones.
Those
yeah.
are big arguments.
3 me, 0 you.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's just me being irresponsible.
Yeah.
Me being incredibly responsible.
I am very responsible. I am way too hard on myself and by proxy the people around me sometimes.
Yeah.
And you've really shown me the light of that. So I'm constantly trying to work on that.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's like you don't want to. There is I think there's such a balance because I think we are two ends of the spectrum, which is sometimes good. I think I make you be like, it's really not a big deal.
Yeah.
A little more. And I think sometimes you're like, Queen, you got to get your shit together.
Sure.
Because I think there was a couple of things that I just felt, before we were together, I was unmedicated. And I think I just felt so out of control with things that over time, you build this defense mechanism of just being able to not care, of being able to be like, I've failed completely. And you know what? It happens. And it feels very liberating to take control of my life a little bit.
It's actually insane that you're alive.
That is
what it feels like. Before you got medicated?
You shouldn't say that to people, Jordan.
You used to be
I know.
wild.
Well, there's a lot. Nothing was ever organized. It's like I used to go to the same coffee shop every single day for years. I never opened up like I never got like an account there.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, that feels like too much. Everything just felt too much.
I remember when we first started dating, you bought these shoes on Poshmark and you were so excited about them. And then you wouldn't stop talking about them, and then you stopped talking about them, and then maybe 2 months later I was like, wait a second, I want to see those shoes you got. You were so excited about them. And you go, what shoes? And I'm like, the shoes that you ordered from Poshmark. And you were like, oh my God, I never got those.
Right.
And I was like, what do you mean you never got those? And you were like, I don't know, they never came.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, did you reach out to Poshmark? And you were like, no. And I was like,
that was just...
okay, are you sure they didn't come? You were like, I don't know. And then I looked at it. There had been like, they shipped them to your house. They set them in front of your front door. They took a picture of them, like how the mailman like takes a picture now.
Right.
Took a picture of
I'm
them.
standing next to it waving.
Basically. And they just sat there for what I'm assuming a month and a half until a very patient robber finally stole them.
Right. And he earned it.
Yeah, he deserved.
Well, and it's funny. I used to say before we were together, I always would say this. I would go, well, at least it's stimulating the economy, which is very crazy because I was in so much debt and had zero money.
Like literally.
But I would be like, I didn't receive my package, but at least American Eagle got my money. Thank God.
So crazy.
Thank God. But I remember stocks are just going up and up.
Yeah, I remember with the shoe thing, I was like, do we have to break up?
No, you did
I was
not.
scared.
But that was a big turning point.
I was
for us,
really
where
scared.
We were like, we need to figure this out. And I went to therapy, and I would like to say, pretty close to perfect now.
I agree.
What's going on now? You any more arguments we've had?
No, that's all of them.
That's all of them. Well, we went out to Instagram. We walked on out to Instagram and we said, sorry guys, we took a couple weeks off from podcasting. I'm a little nervous.
Yeah. You do seem nervous.
I am a little nervous. We walked on over to Instagram and we said, what questions do you have about fighting? What advice do you need about fighting? What fights are you currently having with your partner? And a lot of you wrote in, so we're going to answer those. If you're like, why the heck did I not get an opportunity to ask a question? Because you're not following us on Instagram, which is something we want to talk to you about. It's very upsetting, and we want you to do it. Also, you can always email us any question you have at hwhlpodquestions@gmail.com.
Great job.
Thanks.
You're doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
In our new space.
I know.
Yeah.
I think this does feel much more profesh.
does
So it makes me a
feel
little nervous.
Much more professional.
Yes.
It's really nice.
I know. I feel really happy and excited and proud of us.
Me too.
Oh my gosh.
I love you.
It's very special. I love you too.
Also, we have a cast of characters here with us.
Oh, yeah.
Blake, our producer's here. You might know and love Blake if you've listened to the podcast for a while. Blake, say hi.
Hi.
And then also we have a new person here. Say hi and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm John.
John works at the studio. We're obsessed with him, and he'll be here too. So if you hear kind of like fun being had, laughter occurring, that's them.
Yeah.
And hopefully you at home.
Yeah, and hopefully you at home as well.
All right, first question. This was the most common question we got by far.
Okay.
Is it bad if you never argue? And to that we will say 3, 2, 1, yes. It is. It's bad. One of you is keeping something in. Both of you are keeping something in. Both of you maybe are too passive or passive aggressive.
Well, right. And the only rebuttal I would have to that is that I have recently met a couple people where I'm like, they're so passive aggressive that it genuinely doesn't bother. Because I think what it always is the problems are building up. I've started to realize there's some people that just don't get as fired up about stuff as we do. Because I will say, Jordan and I are we're both fire signs, not to make this the gayest
to be
podcast
like that.
ever, but we are very passionate people. We, from our second date, we're having a tiff, I would say. We love to debate. If we don't just feel a little bit about something, we always have the most intense emotions about it. So I think for us, it would be absolutely impossible. If we were not arguing, we would explode. We cannot, we will be out with friends. And if you say something that irritates me, I can't not in the moment be like, that irritates me. We just have so much thoughts going on. I have come to realize there's some people that feel a little bit less about stuff.
Absolutely. And we can go ahead and call them out just in our personal lives. Our best friends, Colin and Andrew, they're an incredible couple. They just are not arguers. They're not bickerers. When they get mad at each other, they both just go to separate rooms and be quiet for a little bit.
And I've been nosy. I continually have been like, but what do you really fight about? And they're like, well, not really anything. I'm like, no, but you got, what's been the biggest fight?
But they don't. We've literally traveled the world with them, and they're just not arguers, but they're very passive aggressive. Right. And I could not be that way. But I will say, to me, that's still arguing, right? They're still getting upset with each other. But if you're like, we never get upset with each other, I'm like, is one of you in a coma? What's going on?
That'd be so funny with the person who wrote in this question.
We never fight. Everything's
never
so
fight.
smooth.
Yes, I also think, I was thinking about this recently because I feel like you and I hold each other to a really high standard.
Yes.
And I think I was thinking recently how grateful I was for that, because I think it's easy. Obviously we joke about you want me to wear sunscreen, and I'm like, oh my God, the ball and chain, get them off my back. And I feel like we have that, both of us. There's stuff I nag you about all the time where I'm like, hey, you should do better about this, and vice versa. And I think there's moments where, I'm sure maybe you felt this, but you can feel this thought of I'm an adult. I should be free. Why do you get to tell me your opinions about what I do? And I was just thinking recently how grateful I am, because when you pick your partner in life, you really are picking the person who's next to you physically, all the time. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't want someone who's just kind of letting me get away with, for example, going to the gym and buying a plastic water bottle. I should be better than that.
Yeah.
I should do better than that. And I have the capability to, but I think it would be really easy. And, sometimes in lesbian relationships, I see this a lot, where they're very oh, baby, you don't need to do that. You can hardly lift a water bottle. How are you going to take it to the gym? And some days I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if you said that? But I don't really want that at the end of the day. And I think we push each other through our irks with each other. Is that what you'd say? Our irks? That's not a thing, is it?
Yeah.
Our nagging of each other. I'm like, at the end of our lives, we're going to be such top-notch people, because I think we do push each other.
I agree wholeheartedly. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves is these lesbian couples on the internet acting and people get in our comments and act like this. They're like, oh, well, Kendahl at this point said she wanted to live in a bigger house, and Jordan said we can't afford a bigger house right now. But if my wife said she wanted a bigger house, I would say, okay, my prince. I'm like, shut up. why are you acting like your adult wife is a child?
Right.
Like, that's so irritating.
Because this is really, you're going to have at the end of our life, and I think we're both pretty independent, but at the end of our lives, like, you and I will probably have the biggest effect on the other person.
100%.
Obviously, just even by the amount of time we spend together. And it's like, do you want the person who's going to affect you the most in the way that you are just let you get away with whatever? Not even get away, but what is it called when they, when you let someone keep doing something? What's it called?
Get away
with.
Yeah.
No.
I think you had it originally.
What's the word? When you like let someone, there's a lot of, when someone's doing something bad and you just kind of allow it to continue.
I don't know, but that makes sense.
I don't want that. That's all I know.
Yeah, I'm also just like, hold yourself to a high standard, hold your partner to a high standard, but for both of you, so you can have like a good life and a better life and make sure there's no resentment. It's like, I want to give you the world, but also I too want to have a nice life because I'm also a person and I want us to have a nice life together. I don't need to infantilize you.
Right.
You shouldn't just say yes to everything your partner asks. And I know we talk about this a lot, but if you were in a heterosexual relationship, you would not say yes to everything your boyfriend asks of you, for you, whatever. And you would think that was weird. You would look down on your friend if they constantly said yes to everything their boyfriend thought, wanted, whatever.
Right.
But for some reason, in relationships with two women or two non-binary people, it's like very kind of romanticized to just be a yes man to your partner because it's like boys are bad and girls are good.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. I think it's very stupid and embarrassing.
Right. Now that being said, I do think there's like a time and a place. Like we've had a bajillion conversations of like, you know, maybe when we first come home after a long day of work, it's not the time to like unload all the things you wish I could do differently or walk through the house, either of us doing this, walk through the house and be like, oh, remember to close this. And sometimes it can add up and you're like, not in the mood. Thank you, please. And I think like we've both worked on like, there's some stuff you don't need to comment on. Like it's not black and white. There are things that it's like, and I've expressed, and I feel like you have too, where it's like, we both beat ourselves up enough that sometimes you also don't need a partner constantly being like, and I'm also going to throw my hat in the ring and say, that pissed me off too. So there's definitely things you can do to curb the frustration of it. But I don't think having a partner who holds you to a high standard is bad.
Yeah. I also think that...
I think that causes fighting, to bring it back.
Say again?
I think that causes fighting to bring it back sometimes.
I also think that you got to figure out the way in which fighting works for you. Because there are things where Kendahl and I realize that we feel irritated when the other one passive aggressively makes a comment or says a thing kind of jokingly that we actually meant seriously.
Right.
So we've gotten now into the habit of just being like, hey, this thing you do makes me feel kind of unseen, or this thing you do makes me feel frustrated. Can we talk about it for a second?
Yeah.
That's what works for us. So I think you have to like find the best way in which you fight.
Yeah, because also the word fighting is very subjective. Is that the right word to say? Where like, I think sometimes we'll be like, we fight, and people are picturing us like screaming on our front lawn.
It's not like, a knockdown drag
I'm
out.
taking the dog!
Yeah.
And we've never done that. I think it's like, we're always really just saying a conversation. So I think some people will be like, I don't fight with my partner, but they have a lot of like
heated conversations. Yeah. We've gotten our time down. I mean, we're having an argument in 3 to 7 minutes.
Well, because I've realized, look, sometimes you just gotta pretend to be over it. It sounds like bad advice.
You're good at this. I don't do this, but I think it's helpful to you.
Well, sometimes you're fighting about something and you're like, what are we doing? Like, what is this? Like, I don't even know what we're fighting about. Like, obviously, if there's something that, you know, and we're very stubborn, which I will stop there saying that because I know there's a question later about this.
Sure.
But we are very stubborn people. So I think sometimes by the end, you know, we're 45 minutes in and I'm like, I don't even care. I don't even care about this. I'm just like, don't want to say that I'm wrong. And sometimes I'll just start doing a British accent and dancing.
It helps.
And honestly, it's over in 2 seconds.
It's really true. It helps. And also just being like, hey, we're working together to try to solve this argument. We're not working against each other. And as corny as that sounds, we literally will say that to each other in arguments sometimes, and it really helps. This person wants to know if the genders fight differently.
Ooh.
And as someone who's dated all across the gender spectrum, I'll say yes and no.
Okay.
No, in the sense that like everyone's kind of the same, right? I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, but like people really romanticize dating women or non-binary people. But like, I don't know, women can be bad, men can be bad. Like it's all kind of the same. Men do like to do this thing, in my experience, and from literally every person I've ever spoken to, where they get very like, I they get very internal in a way that feels kind of embarrassing to me.
Yeah. Explain more.
They'll like hit themselves in the chest.
Oh, God, Jesus.
Or they'll like, they'll be very like, it's like they just can't use their words. So, and I'm saying like, keep in mind, like I'm not talking about like just alpha men. I've dated like men that do improv, I'm saying men all across the spectrum, I think sometimes have a really hard time.
Honestly, I haven't dated men, and I can tell you if you're dating someone with improv, if you're dating a man who does improv, he's going to punch a hole through your wall.
Sure. But I think alpha men do that too. So I think there's something about like men, I'm just like, use your words, king. Like, it's fine. So I think they do that more. But I mean, I've also seen a woman punch a hole in a wall. So
what?
It happened.
I want to clarify that was not me.
It was Kendahl. No, it wasn't even in a fight with me. I'm just saying I've seen women.
What I will tell you is I've been mad enough, not at you, but I've been mad enough in my life, especially in my teen years, where I had enough anger to punch a hole through a wall. But I've thought about it so many times where I'm like, I would be so embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because I would try to punch a hole through a wall and it would not work.
It would just break all your fingers.
All my fingers would be broken. And there's no world in which I could punch a hole through a wall. I could not do that. I don't even think my body would let me do that.
Yeah.
And that is really embarrassing.
Yeah.
I also think this is only from having straight female friends where I've heard them talk about their cis male partners. There's a lot of like, they have it's like not a continued argument, but I've heard this with many people where they're like, my boyfriend just is anxious in general about dating. Do you know what I mean? I know this sounds crazy, but I think women are much more like, it makes sense. Like I can very easily picture my life doing all that I do and also having a partner, where I think men sometimes are very panicked.
Yeah, I think men are always like, but what if I could have a little bit more?
But what if I could win an Oscar?
Yeah, like,
oh, my girlfriend's the reason I haven't won an Oscar. And it's like,
yes!
No, she's not.
Yes, like even if, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's just like, oh, well, what if, maybe if I had more time. Men are obsessed with time in a way that's like, relax. Like, versus we all have the same amount of time, but for some reason men are always like, oh, if I just had a little more time, maybe I could be a professional wrestler. I could go to Le Cordon Bleu. I could whatever. And I'm like, you are like a random man who works in an office. Like, you don't even like those things. What are you talking about? If you had more time, you would be part of the LA Philharmonic. Like, you don't play an instrument. But they get in this thing where they're like, oh, if I just have more time. And then if you are part of their life, that takes
you're the reason that they don't
away
have time
from them.
And I think maybe it is that like women traditionally, even for me, like I don't plan on having kids, but I think even when in my life was like, I'm not going to have a kid, you as a woman are just constantly told like, at 30, it's done. You're done at 30. Like, try to get your career done by 30.
Yeah, they're like, have a kid or buy a gun.
Yes. And so I do think even if you're not in the place to have a kid, I always grew up not really knowing what I would do. But I remember one day being like, just say you're not going to have a kid. Even if you end up having one, just pretend you're not, because who cares right now? I suddenly felt like I could achieve anything. I was like, oh my God, I have all this time. So I think women are like, most of the time, just grow up with this knowledge that at 30, it's done. And I think we're used to that. So I think maybe men, it's like when they get in this relationship, they're like, wait, I always thought I would have 108 years to do everything.
They're like, hold on, Alan Rickman became a famous actor at 65. Maybe that's what I could do if I killed my girlfriend. It's just like, oh my God, relax.
Yes.
So
you think that's different. But I mean, I guess I'm a big sample size for you of like women. Would you feel like arguing with me is different? You would say, is there a way it's the same as arguing with men?
Yeah, you're so stubborn.
Yeah, just kind of.
You're so stubborn. And you get very inwardly angry.
Yeah.
That I do not like. And I think you're so much better about that. But I've
said this before, but I came from a family where it was like, we argue and then we go be by ourselves. And then we kind of like walk into the kitchen 4 hours later and are like, anyone want to play Catan?
Yes.
Like, that's how I process emotions. You very much want to get to the end of an argument, which I have had to really push myself to do. Well, and so I think that comes with me just being internal, because I'm like, I am usually in my room. Like as a kid, I would be in my room right now punching a pillow, and I'm having to sit here being like, I hear and I validate that.
Yeah.
But I think maybe I disagree. So that can be hard.
This does lead to the question of, what is your take on don't go to bed angry? A lot of people wanted to know about don't go to bed angry. And we feel differently on this. I don't believe in going to bed angry because I think it's pointless. I'm like, let's just get to the end of the conversation and find some kind of resolution. It doesn't mean we have to like fully solve it, but I am not good at being like, we're both at a 10 right now. Let's take a pause and go to sleep.
Yeah.
I just simply can't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's just knock it out. Worst case scenario, we stay up all night, and then we go get an early brunch at Bob's Big Boy.
Well, that's a pretty luxurious life. I think what's hard is for me is I'm like, sometimes you don't have time to do that. Like sometimes I want sleep. And I also find that like at 2 a.m., those conversations are going to escalate so much more because you're so tired. And so I don't love that. I don't necessarily think going to bed angry is a good thing, but I do remember the first time, like, we don't really go to bed angry, but I think there was one time we did because I'd been like, I just want to go to bed and I'm going to go to bed. We went to bed and I remember in the morning waking up and you were still like, okay, are we going to talk about it? And I was gagged. I said,
she was shocked.
Huh? I woke up, I was like, good morning. Yeah. How's everyone doing?
Breakfast like, burritos? And I was like, bitch, I'm angry.
And then I think I was like, oh, see, I don't want to go to bed angry if we have to then talk about it. I think for me, it was just natural to like, I need to just cool off. I need to go to bed. And when we wake up, we'll forget about it, never discuss again. Not the greatest way to handle a conflict. But I do think but I also think I do need to take space away sometimes. Like I do need to go on a walk. I need to because I can get really like, I just get things feel so heightened that are not, because I also think we're never arguing about something serious.
Yeah.
So that also is another reason sometimes I'm like, I think in the past I've been like, let's just go to bed because what even is this conversation? Yeah. It's not like we need to come back to this because we're never even going to, it'll be such a specific scenario that's like, why do we need to get to the bottom of this? But I do always feel better once we talk about it.
Yeah. And we're almost done, but since you referenced it, I do want to address it. Someone said, do you think it's okay to walk away during arguments? I do it and my partner hates it. And as someone who is essentially your partner's position, I hate the walking away. It would really irritate me when Kendahl would just walk away during a conversation because I'd be like, excuse me, do you have a plane to catch? Where the fuck do you think you're going? That's crazy to me. But sometimes Kendahl needs space away. So I've had to be like, okay, I understand that. So now Kendahl just kind of very angrily with gritted teeth goes, can I please take a walk for a second?
No, what I do is, this is what my therapist says. Look, sometimes you got to do your best. I sometimes have to say a verbatim thing my therapist told me to say, which is, I'm sure it doesn't feel great to you because it's very clear what's happening and I cannot put on a show. But last time we were arguing, I said, I just want you to know I very much value this conversation and I'm looking forward to finishing it in a couple minutes. But I'd like to take a bit of a walk. And he said, okay. Yeah. And I went on a walk. It's not perfect, but I think you have to like acknowledge what's happening. I think you have to be like, and look, we're not couples therapists, so, talk to your therapist. But I think you have to be like, I acknowledge that we should come back to this. I think a dynamic we've struggled with is this dynamic, which I think a lot of people have, of like, you want to be having the conversation and I don't want to be having the conversation. And I think that can be hard for you because you're like, well, I don't want to be having this conversation. Yes. I would rather not, but I'm trying to push us to have like a good conversation. And so I think even just going on a walk and not feeling like I'm doing this to get away from you. I'm just doing this to like take a breath so we can then continue this conversation that I also value. And I do think in the beginning, like I always tell my therapist, I'm like, please give me a sentence I can say because it does help me in the beginning. And over time, I think now I don't have to be so like that. But I think in the beginning, I really did have to grit out this like.
Oh, and she says that you can tell she doesn't want to do it. Same thing with a hug at the end of an argument. Her therapist told her to give a hug even if she doesn't want to do it. And she will hug me at the end of an argument just with the biggest grimace on her face.
Like I'm meeting Donald Duck at Disneyland.
Yeah, she's like absolutely furious. Looks like she never has met me once before in her life.
No.
But I think it's good because I think it does kind of reset things. So I think let your partner go on the walk like I do with Kendahl, but you need to ask like, hey, I need to take a second. Is that okay? But your partner also needs to say yes.
And I think make a plan before you're arguing.
Yes.
We've had that where it's like, this is what we'll do if we're ever in an argument where I need to take a break. So then it's like, we know the plan. This is the game plan. And then we're going to execute it versus just trying to make a plan while you're so worked up is never a good idea.
It'll never work. But honestly, we have perfected arguing. I really do confidently feel like I can say that. So I think all of this is sound advice. We appreciate you writing in with your question.
We really do. Thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to be in this new studio space. I've missed recording with you. I know it's only been a couple weeks, but I really have missed recording.
I know.
And it's always such a blast, and we're having so much fun already here. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast, make sure to leave us a review. It really helps us out. And also check out our Patreon. It's popping over there,
Yeah.
I will say.
A lot is going on.
We do so much fun stuff over there. We are doing giveaways. We do videos, vlogs. We do a bunch of stuff. It's super fun. So make sure to become a member today. And what else? Oh, check us out on YouTube. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful week. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Bye.
Bye.